Hello and welcome to New Junction. In today's episode of Under Closer Inspection, I've got something rather special for you. I've been kindly loaned all 9 of Hornby's new Class 66, and as I say, in all the liveries, so this should be quite special. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the details, what you get for your money, or what don't you get for your money. I'm also going to be looking at how to fit the TTS sound decoder, so this should be quite fun. So, for me anyway. And here they are, nicely positioned on the layout. As you can see, my new pilot sidings have come in handy just in the nick of time. What I'm going to do now is quickly run through the available liveries for you in my photo booth, and then I'll show you an in-depth fitting of how to fit the TTS decoder into the BR large logo, which is very easy. So all the liveries in the range are fairly bright and fairly crisp and well applied, as you'd imagine. It's probably one of the best features of this range, to be honest, is the quality of the liveries. I'm now going to run you through them very briefly, just to give you an idea up close what they look like. So we'll start you off with the DB Schenker livery here, followed by the fairly traditional EWS, followed by the GBRF Interhub GB, Colas Rail Freight. This will be a popular one. GBRF Evening Star, probably my favourite of the bunch, the Orange Freightliner. The Golden Jubilee. Biffa, the infamous Flying Dustman. And last but not least, the British Rail large logo. So now it's time to take a closer look at the details up close. However, I will stress at this point, it's not going to be equivalent to other manufacturers' models, but then it's not trying to be. This isn't in any way trying to be critical of the model, just stating the obvious. So if we go to the front of the loco, as you can see, and what most people have already mentioned, it doesn't come with any running lights. It literally has mouldings, as you can see. There's some at the top. Some of the light configurations on some of the models aren't correct as well for the real rivet counter in you. However, when you're running it around the layout and for the price point, it's not really an issue. There are no sprung buffers, as you'd imagine, and the thing you have to watch with these models is this bit of plastic down here does have a habit of dropping off, so a bit of glue might be necessary. So as you can see from the side, much plainer detailing than what we've been used to. However, nothing is left without some form of detail. So all the bogie undercarriage, for example, it's all relatively there, what you need. The ladders, for example, wheel hubs, that kind of thing, it's all there. Livery application is nice and crisp. However, on this corrugated texture, it does leave a lot to be desired. So they've done remarkably well of getting the livery applied to it, even though it's corrugated. Now, what I should mention is everything with a name, as you see here, does come with a proper nameplate in its box, and you just attach that to the loco and you're well away. Now, this loco in particular is known for its large logo, and here is the large logo. As you can see, it's been nicely applied, it's nice and crisp. No real problems with the livery on any of them, to be honest. One thing I did notice is on the driving bogie, 2 of the wheels have traction tyres. So in this case, one's here and then one's down here. Now, there's nothing really wrong with traction tyres, they've been around forever. However, you will need to watch that they may need replacing in future, so that is something you may have to look into buying. But again, they're cheap and cheerful. All in all, on the detailing front, it is a very plain model really. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it just aids it being a cheaper price point for us. So another part of Hornby's big release is the fact that they've released digital sound decoders to go with them. Now, the good thing about this is it makes a affordable loco very affordable when it comes to being a sound loco. So the loco's about £60–70, and then this chip is £30–40 depending on where you buy it from. So for £100 you get yourself a very nice sound fitted loco. What comes in the digital sound decoder box is what you'd expect. We have a speaker and the correlating 8-pin chip. What I'm going to do now is attempt to show you how to install one, which again is extremely easy. So on the Hornby 66, they've been very kind to us. There are no screws on the underside of the loco that need undoing. You can literally get your fingers either side of the model, pull it out and ease the underframe down. So as you can see, mine's loosely undone already. There we go. That leaves you with the 8-pin blanking plate that comes in as standard. And to run it on DCC, you'll either need to swap that for a normal 8-pin DCC chip, or I'd be tempted to say, pay the extra tenner and get yourself a sound chip. So I'm going to try and do this around the camera. So the first things first, if you're not running DC, the blanking plate has to come out. What you may notice, try and show you for camera, is on the top right corner here is the number 1. So this is for all the beginners out there. When taking your new sound fitted loco or any chip, there's always a number on them. So whether you can see this or not, you see it's the top right as we're looking at it. There's also the number 1. So what we need to do is learn how to focus a camera, is match the one on the top right with the one on the top right. And that goes in nice and gently. See if I can see this over the camera. And just lightly press that in. Don't force it, because if you bend the prongs, you might have to get a new chip. And that sits nicely like that. Simple as that. And there's a nice slot here which is just crying out for the speaker. So as a temporary fix, I'm just going to put that there. Eventually, or it's good practice too, I should say, you might want to put a bit of insulating tape around these things, just so they don't catch or just don't short out. Luckily, because this model is rather plastic, you shouldn't have that as an issue. But this is as good as ready to go now. It's a good opportunity while we're here to take a look at the outer frame. It's an outer frame, as you'd imagine. A lot of people will be looking to retrofit lights later on. Now the plastic itself is fairly sturdy. On other manufacturers' models, the lights are actually based around the bottom, whereas on the Hornby one, obviously you can see they're attached to the top. So with a small drill, etc., and lots of space in the chassis itself, you could quite happily retrofit LED lights and save yourself a packet of money compared to other versions available. And there we are, all ready for the layout, ready to be run in. Now, I did read online that there was a potential batch issue with some of these because the ladders weren't lining up with the doors, with the upper body. That's simply a case of the body can go on both ways, except if it's on the wrong way, the ladders and the doors won't line up. So there's a top tip for you. So here we are back on the layout. I'm hopefully now going to show you a few of the sounds without spoiling it too much, of course. So let's get one turned on. Now we'll play a few of the horns. That was function 2 and 3. This is 4. With a mix of another one, I think. Let's hear what it sounds like taking off. And there we go. So one of its few flaws as an engine is it is rather light, especially for one that's designed to carry freight and therefore presumably bigger trains. So the next test, the sensible test, will be to load it up with some coaches in this instance. I've got 10 Mark 1s lined up. I'm just going to hook it up and see how it pulls. So we're hooked up to 10 Mark 1s. Let's see how it goes. As I suspected, no bother at all. What we're going to do now is try and find something a bit heavier and see if it can pull that. So now I've hooked it up to something a bit more meaty. We've got 5 Bachmann FAA hoppers. Now, I've only got 5 on, as I've just said. I'll just pan you up. There you go. 2 of them at the back are fully loaded with some coal. My actual rake is a 10 rake set, and the normal, I suppose the traditional 66 that we've been able to get so far, the Bachmann version, can pull them. Also things like 37s can also pull them. We did a brief experiment on a live stream with these, and this loco, I'm afraid to say, did struggle with 5. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. On a straight piece of track with no points, and it's definitely level. Let's see how it does. See, we are struggling now. We are at notch 4. This is the same notch that the coaches had on the max speed you've just seen. It's really struggling to pull that. The sounds have gone down, but I haven't touched the controller. I have now. There we go, I've turned it off. You have to ignore the sounds. And there we go. This is where it stopped. I've turned the sound off for now so you can hear me talk. Just to confirm, that is 5 hoppers, 2 of which are filled. Normally my rake is 10. Now this isn't all doom and gloom. It just shows or highlights a slight error on Hornby's part, I think, not to add more weight to it. You've got to be realistic and know that it's going to be pulling heavy hoppers and wagons round, not just sat in a end-to-end layout. So a bit of weight wouldn't have gone amiss. However, not being too doom and gloom, you can add your own weight. There's plenty of room in the chassis, but it's something the end modeler would have to do. So here we are all back together. So who's this loco really aimed at? I think for the most part, Hornby are trying to do two things. One is engage with new modelers, or very experienced, very capable modelers who are able to turn this into something very special. They're also trying to flex their muscles in an ever-crowded industry. As you know, other manufacturers have a 66, and certain other ones are bringing one out later on in the year. So I think it was an early attempt, a quick attempt, just to sort of fill the void and try and steal sales, with happy consequences for us. It's always nice to have a bit of competition. The model itself is very basic, it is very light, the liveries are perfect, they're fine, and I think they're great for the entry-level modeler, even the younger modeler. So, I mean, at £67, £69 per loco, you can't argue. I want to show you a clip now which has been sent in to me from a good friend of mine, Mike Buick, who was second or third place in this year's, or last year's, Modeller of the Year award. He has an old Lima version, and as you can see on his layout, it doesn't take much to turn them into a very realistic model. For all the saying of lack of detail, etc., when you're stood at standing height watching your layout, how many of us actually watch pipe details on the front buffer beam? I, for example, never actually open my accessory packs on my locos, so what does that tell you? Ultimately, I think proof's going to be in the pudding. I was lucky enough to have my hands on the Hatton's variety. Obviously, I own several Bachmann Class 66s, and I think if nothing else, it's created a nice bit of competition. Bachmann have now slashed the price of theirs from 150, 160 to 125. So as you can see, it's already bringing the price down. So a lot of people will fall into the camp of, I'd rather have less locos or save up for longer and buy the more expensive model. And then some will be, this is perfect for me, it does what I need to do. I think the interesting one will be the Hatton's model that comes out later in the year. That is an extremely now well-priced model. It's the most expensive in the market, especially the sound version at £250. So that'll take some, that'll have to be some loco to warrant spending all that money. I was lucky enough to have my hands on one earlier in the year, and from what I saw and when I had a play with one, they are definitely up there. But proof will be in the pudding when the final release comes out. For now, with the Hornby model, you can't really go wrong for the money. You can afford to, I suppose you can literally, for the first time, you can afford to get one and weather it up. It's not a £250 option, it's not a £160 option, it's 60 something pounds. You can afford to buy one and you can afford to weather it up. And then what happens when they're second hand, of course? Then they're extremely cheap. All in all, I think Hornby have done a fantastic job. As ever, they've flexed their muscles, they've brought a lot of locos to market, and I think it's all for the benefit of us. So I think there's nothing wrong with these models per se. I myself am going to hold reserve judgment until the third of the trio is out, and it's only a couple of months away. But that's because I'm being picky and I can only afford one. I would like to take this moment to thank my local model shop, Tony's Trains in Hillmorton in Rugby, for lending me these locos to do this video with. That was very kind of him. If you are in the Midlands area, sort of Coventry Rugby way, do pop along and see him. Here's my local model shop. Details for his shop will be in the description. Right, it's a sad task now, boxing these up and taking them back. Thanks as ever for watching, guys. Hopefully it's been useful to someone, and I'll see you soon. Take care now.